Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. So with the introduction of the Origin 100 series, we got a new shipyard post regarding refueling. Now this post talks about the current fuel mechanics, what's coming up in the future, and the career revolving around fuel in general. So currently in 3.1, all ships both have their hydrogen fuel tank, and most of them have a quantum fuel tank, except for ships that cannot quantum jump, of course. Now, the ship's thrusters consume the fuel stored in the hydrogen tanks, converting it into thrust, which has a small draw on the power plant. When in quantum travel, the thrusters consume the fuel from the quantum fuel tank, but fuel is not only consumed when boosting or using the afterburner, fuel is consumed during any use of the thrusters. Now, most ships do have fuel intakes which regenerate fuel from the environment, so while in space, fuel will regenerate faster while manoeuvring in general. However, sustained manoeuvring while using boost or afterburner and flying in atmosphere will consume fuel faster than it can regenerate. Currently, if you run out of any type of fuel, the only way to refuel it is by visiting a cryastro or respawning and filing an insurance claim. So for the future, the diagram shows the intended plans for the fuel cycle. Number one, the intakes scoop natural gases from the environment, so seeking out areas of concentrated gas is advised. Now the gases are then converted into plasma. The fuel intakes will do the basic conversion for limited ranges of gas types, but with a refinery installed you will have more conversion options of different gases. The plasma is then stored in the fuel tanks. Only one type of fuel can be stored in an individual tank at any time, so if you needed to swap it out you would have to purge that tank. Number 4 is, when needed, the plasma is pumped through the power plant and converted or agitated into energized plasma, creating thrust. Now this is then funneled through the thrusters, and that's how the whole process works. Hydrogen is the most common element in space, and all ships use it to power their thrusters, but there are different types of gases which can be converted, and when refined, these can provide additional benefits like increased efficiency or reduced emissions. Refineries are what's needed to convert other gas types into usable fuel, and these can be found on ships like the new Origin 100 series, the Freelancer Der and the Starfarer. When converting the fuel, you'll need to monitor the situation, as gas concentrations will vary from location and even vary in the same location. So for example, a single gas cloud may contain a mixture of ammonia, hydrogen and nitrogen. Now ammonia may be the most effective and dense fuel, but it only makes up, say, 9% of the gas composition, whereas nitrogen may make up 40%, which means it'll take just over 4 times as long to get the same amount of ammonia plasma as it would nitrogen plasma. But on the other hand, ammonia plasma sells for a lot more, so it's this kind of decision making that will make the refueling gameplay a lot more interesting. Quantum fuel will remain as is, it's only consumed during quantum travel and refueled at stations like the cryastro. So for future patches, soon players will begin to notice that some ships will no longer have the ability to regenerate fuel or even scoop fuel by default. Now this had to be delayed, they say, until they could implement support features such as a way to request help or refuel at any location. Obviously, with 3.1, requesting help was solved with the service beacon, and the last issue will be solved when the Starfarer gains its functionality. Now ships in general will have either a fuel intake, not have a fuel intake, or have the option to equip one. This is more determined by the ship's intended careers and roles. For short-range combat ships like the Gladius and the Hornets, these will not have the ability to refuel via intakes. Long-range combat ships like the Vanguard or the Retaliator will have the intakes, as they are intended for long-distance travelling. Exploration ships will obviously have fuel intakes by default. These obviously need to travel the furthest distances. For industrial and transport, typically the ships will have fuel intakes, as travelling long distances is needed. For support ships, Starfarers and most other ships in the support career will retain them, as they'll often have to travel long distances as well. And then in terms of competition, these ships will vary depending on their type. The Misk Razor features tech that allows you to refuel, whereas the M50 will just have larger fuel tanks instead. Now some ships like the Aurora or the 300 series will vary depending on the variant. Some will come as default, while others can be equipped as an aftermarket upgrade. Not having a fuel intake does not mean that you cannot operate in deep space, however, it just means you need to be more vigilant in ensuring that you have enough fuel to make the journey. Now the new 100 series does benefit, as it has both a fuel intake and a refinery. This allows them to process more types of gases than the other ships in their class. And the default equipped fuel intake for the 100 series is a grade B, which just basically means that the 100 series will be the most fuel efficient of the starter ships. Anyway, that is the shipyard post for fuel. I am very much looking forward to the more in-depth look into fuel, and when it comes in, being able to, especially on a Starfarer, figure out what types of fuel will be worth it, the time over the amount you can sell it for as a commodity. It is going to be very fun, and also just playing with the system in the 100 series will be interesting as well, just to sort of see what benefits you can get from running a better economy type of fuel. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, guys. Make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube, hit that like button, follow me over on Twitch, Twitter and Instagram, and I shall see you next time.